So I am drinking Mountain Dew Livewire, and you're drinking
Poker.
Poker. Yeah, that famous drink everyone drinks. The people who, if we figure out the podcast part of this podcast, the people who aren't watching the video will think you're actually drinking a beverage called Poker. Because you are.
Yeah.
But anyway. And then the people who are watching the video will laugh.
Yeah.
Alright. So, hello there, audience. Welcome to our brand new podcast called
Mapping the Twilight Zone!
I'll put something in there.
Dude.
Well, as of recording, the podcast doesn't have a name, but this is a Twilight Zone rewatch review, or I guess not rewatch, but watch, because you've never seen it before.
I haven't seen the vast majority of the episodes.
Yes. We watched. Have you seen any videos that you haven't watched with me?
About the Twilight Zone?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, I think I have one. Like this
Probably.
one here. This one here looked very, very slightly familiar.
Okay.
But I basically, pretty much just like the scene of the guy walking into the place at the start, the bar.
Yeah.
Not the bar.
The cafe.
Cafe. The
It's
guy
that
walking into the
cafe and big black flares on the side.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, we watched one episode previously, and then we watched this episode, but you've never actively watched it.
No.
Okay. Whereas me, I've seen the entire first 2-3 seasons, and then random episodes here and there. I love the show. I've actively tried to watch the show. I think it's fun. I think it's got a lot of fun things. But we just watched the first episode entitled "Where Is Everybody?" And we're going to talk about that. Maybe that's our podcast, is "Where Is Everybody?" Because then it could be like commenting on how no one listens to us.
Ooh.
Or like, where is all the listeners or something? I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, so this episode, what are your thoughts of this episode?
Well, my very first thought that I had while watching the episode is that the monologue thing at the start where the guy's talking about what the Twilight Zone is.
Mm-hmm.
He says it's a fifth dimension. Do you remember the precise wording? It's a fifth dimension beyond human.
Beyond sound. I don't know. Beyond something.
Anyways, well, it was a fifth dimension and something about it was like beyond human understanding or capabilities or something.
Yeah.
And then later it said that it was between human despair and the pit of the lowest, basically the lowest point and the highest point.
The pit of despair and the summit of imagination, is that it?
Something like
there is, throughout the show, there is several shifts to that intro. So I get them mixed up. But I think it's the pit of despair and the summit of imagination, something like that. Anyway.
But basically, my first comment is that it seems inconsistent for it to be beyond human understanding, and then yet they also understand it. I don't know.
Well, I think. Okay, I have a couple of thoughts. One is I don't think they really cared too much about that. I think
sense.
It's more of just a little through line to just somewhat connect the episodes, but barely, But then my other thought is my understanding of what the Twilight Zone is, and I think this may very well be how Rod Serling, the creator of the show, also thought about it. But it's sort of like the world of ideas and the world of, imagination. And like Rod Serling, of course, wanted to make a show about philosophy and politics, and the studio was like, no, no one will watch that. And he's like, well, can I make a show about science fiction and horror? And then they were like, oh yeah, people will love that. So, it's sort of like the idea of the Twilight Zone is that it's about philosophy, it's about ideas and stuff like that, but it is disguised as a show about, like monsters from space and interdimensional travel and blah 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 blah. So that's how I always think about it, is the Twilight Zone is this world that's like the world of just ideas and thoughts. And I think the part about being beyond human understanding is just so it sounds creepier and more science fiction. Because you can't understand. Yeah, so, anyway, with that being said, what did you think of the episode itself?
It was very... It felt like there was a lot of stuff that happened that I just didn't know why. Like,
Yeah.
There was absolutely zero context
Mm-hmm.
going into the episode of why any of it was happening.
Right.
And even after seeing the conclusion of the episode, it still is like, what did I just watch?
Yeah, well, so the idea is that if you haven't seen the episode, which very well maybe you haven't because it's a show from the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, but the episode is about this guy, he's wandering around, he can't remember who he is, and also there's no one else around, and he sort of like just runs around talking to himself like a madman because he's the only person that he can talk to. And I think sort of the underlying idea of the episode is just saying, like people need people to talk to.
Amen.
which is the theme of the episode. With that being said, I think that's true, right? I made on this channel, you, Elijah, can look it up,
What?
and also our viewers can look it up. But
you can look it up?
yeah, on this YouTube channel, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can look up my video called The Twilight Zone and Loneliness, where I talk about this episode, I talk about the Bible, I talk about some stuff that was going on in the news, and then one other episode of The Twilight Zone that also touches on loneliness.
Is it the one that's called Lonely?
It's called The Lonely, yeah.
The Lonely.
Yeah. But anyway, so my point is in that I go into how I think that is like a sort of deep truth about humanity that's kind of missing as more and more human connection is less necessary for survival. We sort of forget how it's necessary for your mind to have humans around you. And that's sort of the premise of that video. I think that's true here. I think that's sort of what the episode's supposed to be about. With that being said, this episode drags, and
Yeah.
it feels like they really struggle to figure out how to make anything happen because it's just a guy wandering around.
Yeah.
With that being said, the ending, I know the first time I saw this episode, I did not understand the ending. Did you?
I think I did.
Okay.
So there's a guy in the box,
Yeah.
and it's because it's like they're doing a test to make sure that he can survive going to the moon,
Mhm.
like the mental loneliness
Right.
fact of that.
Right, yes.
And so he's shoved in a box for 484 hours. I think that's what it was.
I don't remember how long they said.
The thing that I didn't understand was the bit at the end
long
when
enough to get
when it
to
was
the moon,
looking up, like when the
Yeah.
screen was looking up at the moon
Mm-hmm.
and all the talking there. I don't even remember what it said, but I remember not understanding what it was
Yeah, it's
supposed
kind
to
of
be.
weird. It's like
Yeah.
also I just had to laugh because like imagining like this guy like has this mental breakdown and like you're carrying him out of the room to get checked out and then he just starts monologuing at the moon. It's very funny to think about.
Also, the guy who was shoved in the box for
Mhm.
a bunch of. Did they say it was a week and a half? I think they said it was a week and a half.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know they said it was long enough to get to the moon and
Yeah.
back.
Do a few orbits.
But I don't know
he's-
how long that takes.
Yeah. He said. They asked where were you in your hallucinations, and he said somewhere I never want to go again. But then it seemed like he was just totally okay with going to the moon and being like actually away from all people.
Right. Yeah, that is an interesting sort of thing there. I think, yeah, that is kind of weird, especially because like the monologue at the end is like the moon is lonely, the moon is a place of loneliness. I think that was really just them trying to like connect the philosophy of like loneliness with this idea of like, oh, we're gonna go to the moon soon. We're trying to get to the moon because I believe this came out prior to anyone going to the moon. Also, what came to my mind is like, why do they assume that he has to be alone on
Yeah.
his trip to the moon?
Yeah.
Because like, that's not how things actually panned out in real life. They sent a group of people to the moon, not just one dude. So I'm not sure why in this episode they're assuming that they're just gonna send one guy to the moon. The premise of the episode really falls apart if you think, oh, we're just gonna send a group of guys to the moon, which is what ends up happening in actual history after that. So I don't really understand that.
What if
But
this episode was the reason why they sent multiple people to the moon?
Oh, yeah. Well, I feel like it's weird to think you would send just one person on a mission like
Yeah.
that, right? Because like on any sort of mission, you want multiple people in case something happens. You need, like if someone gets hurt, you need someone else to fly the ship or whatever. So, yeah, I'm not sure. There might be context like about what was happening back then that we don't realize, or like maybe they just wanted to do an episode about loneliness and an episode about going to the moon, so they came up with this premise. I'm not sure.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
was hardly about going to the moon though.
Yeah, it was. But I think, yeah, it was. I have a bit of trivia on this episode. First piece of trivia is, well, not trivia, like I have knowledge about the behind the scenes that you can bring up next time you go to a party where everyone sits there and drinks cups of poker chips. But
it's not a cup of poker chips, it's a cup of poker. Delicious.
I sincerely hope that they heard those hit the ground in the microphone.
So do I.
So the first thing, this episode was not the first episode written for the Twilight Zone. The first episode written was in a future society, where basically when people reach a certain age, they just like go and get killed. Because old people are useless.
Oh.
But then the studio was like, no, we aren't going to make an episode about that. That's dark and terrible. So then Rod Serling was like, okay, I guess I'll write an episode about loneliness, that we can all. But as the sort of thing is, he wanted to make episodes about like these sort of political things, and the episode was going to be about, isn't it terrible how like we treat old people like just useless parts lying around. So that was the episode he wanted to be the first episode. They told him no, this episode was the result of that. So what do you think of that? Do you think that episode sounds a little more interesting?
I mean, depends on what they do with it.
Sure,
It could
for
be
sure.
more interesting. This one probably could have been more interesting.
For sure.
If it was just like, oh, old people go and get killed,
Mm-hmm.
that would not be interesting. If there was like a spy
Mm-hmm.
getting into the system and figuring out what's going on and putting it into it, but then that doesn't sound like a Twilight Zone episode based on what little I know of Twilight Zone.
Yeah, you're right. Because I feel like the Twilight Zone, a lot of the episodes are like their ideas. It's about the ideas, not necessarily the story itself. Most of them aren't as hard to watch as this one, where it's like, okay, they clearly have the philosophical point they're making, but they're just dragging their heels trying to find things for this guy to do. But yeah, and it will be. I'm very interested to see like going on what you think of later episodes and stuff.
I think if they
'Cause-
focused more on like the guy figuring out who he was, or like the cigarette that was still smoking,
Mm-hmm.
that was like, dude, is there something going on?
Mhm.
And then they just left and never. There was never any context of
Right.
like, did people just leave or
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
just
it's
everything
like-
seemed so random.
Right. Yeah, and it's like it seems to imply that like everyone's they were like raptured or something, like everyone just disappears all of the sudden besides this one guy. But then like it sort of hints to that, and then with like the cigarette and the movie theater, and then I think in the beginning also there's like coffee boiling, but stuff that seems
Yeah.
like people were there very recently and then just poof.
It seemed
So-
to me like too recently. Like
Right.
the guy disappeared from the cafe minutes
Mhm.
before the other guy walked in,
Yeah.
and then he went over to the town, which probably took quite a long time. But then when he got there, the people had just vanished. And then when he was walking around to different places, it almost seems to me like there was like a radius around him that
like made people disappear.
yeah.
Yeah, and that could be an interesting episode. I think also an interesting episode to like sort of go more along the lines of what this episode was is if there was like someone else there with him that was like, maybe kind of taunting him or whatever, and then that would be like sort of like an imaginary friend that he created to cope with being alone. I think that could have made for a more interesting episode. Yeah, so anyway, a couple of alternate versions of this episode that exist only in our imaginations, or a place we call the Twilight Zone.
Ooh.
Yeah, so there's that factoid. Next factoid, I have the scene of him in the phone booth is apparently that's something that actually happened to Rod Serling at one point, is he
Oh.
got locked in a phone booth, and then like sort of had a panic attack or whatever, being locked in the phone booth.
Well,
But yeah, it again comes across in the episode like it's just filling up time.
yeah.
They're like, we have barely an episode and we have this much time to fill up with stuff.
Yeah. It took so long for him to get out.
Yeah, it did. And then it's like he just pushed it. And because like you see the phone booth they have there shaking so much, which like at the time everyone was probably just like, oh yeah, phone booth prop on a movie, of course it's gonna shake. But now I'm like, oh, that looks so cheaply put together. And it could be so easy for him to just like knock the thing over
just
and
like-
then walk out.
Just like kick the door, man.
Right.
Don't use your hands, use your feet. Your feet are stronger. There's a reason you don't walk around on your hands all the time. It's because your
Yeah.
feet, your legs have muscle.
Yeah, but it did. I don't know. That scene is a little hard for me to watch for whatever reason, and like, it just because it goes on for just a little bit too long. Now you could make the argument, oh, that could be a good thing because that makes you just as uncomfortable as he's supposed to be in the episode. Yeah.
I think that that's not the way to do that. Try and make the people watching uncomfortable. Like that, the phone booth being locked could have happened in a not lonely area.
Right.
It happened with people around.
Yeah.
If you're trying to make people uncomfortable with the loneliness, then you gotta do stuff that's specifically because of the loneliness.
Yeah.
So I disagree with that point that some people could make, that you did not make, but you,
Right.
s-
I
you
would
said
never
other
make
people
such
could
a
make that
point. I'm just saying, yeah.
Yeah, never.
Yeah, and then we almost get that scene again where he's locked in jail, which is like, I don't know. Again, you just watch it and you're like, oh, or is it just gonna be that scene again, where now he's in jail and he's just like pounding on the bar saying, "Let me out! What's the big idea?" But we didn't get that. We just
Yeah.
almost got that.
Yeah, I really liked that part where he barely made it out.
Yeah.
I wish that, because it seemed like again with the smoking cigarette thing, like
Mhm.
there was a person who had just set
Right.
down the cigarette, and it almost seemed like there was an invisible person who like pushed the door closed, because
Right.
when he opened it again and left, the
Mhm.
door didn't swing closed.
Yeah.
And so it almost seemed like they should have paused after
Right.
he got out
Well-
and noted the fact that the door didn't swing closed.
I
again.
think I kind of feel like maybe what they were going for is exactly that, where it's like there's an invisible person watching him, because he obviously knows that people are watching him, like in his subconscious.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really just feels like everything there is just filling up time, and then we get the end, and we're like, okay, so that's the entire episode. It's just like that premise of if you lock someone up by themselves for too long, they'll go crazy. So yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Something I was thinking about watching it is anytime there was a reflection, how they hid the camera. Because like now we have camera lenses that you'll set the camera sort of to the side. It'll make it look like you're straight on a mirror. And a lot of people will do it that way. But at the time when this was being made, they didn't have that, so anytime they show a reflection, they had to have like something covering where the camera would be in the mirror and stuff like that. Which was kind of interesting to think about.
I didn't notice that. I just saw like they had the camera at angles that if you look from the camera,
Right.
if you look from the camera into the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
the reflection in the sea will be over here, not where the camera is.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
Yeah, they shot from an angle. Yeah.
But you were saying there, what, like they would put something their
Well,
movie.
I kind of think they may have used that a little bit in the scene at like the ice cream shop, because they have those things on the mirror, and I kind of think some of them were placed strategically to block off where part of the camera might be poking on. I don't know that for sure. That was just a thought that I had. But yeah, most of the shots, you could tell were that angle where the camera's just outside of the range of the mirror.
Yeah.
But it's something that's just interesting to think about when like you film stuff that maybe a lot of people might not think about. But yeah, mirrors can be hard to get around when filming. So, yeah. Any other thoughts really about this episode? There's really not a lot to
There
talk
isn't a lot.
because, like, I mean, there's like the scene with the mannequin, where it's like it's just another scene where it's
So
like,
cheesy.
yeah.
Or dumb. I don't know if cheesy
Yeah,
is the right
it's-
word.
Well, it's like, you know that she's just a mannequin from the beginning because she doesn't say anything, and then like, I don't know. This is not the best episode of the Twilight Zone by
No,
any
it's
means.
not. I did really like the jazz at the start.
Oh yeah.
Mm.
That makes sense. Yeah. Something else in this episode is there was, in one version of the script, there was like something from the dream that was like gonna show up in like the real world. But Rod Serling was like, no, I don't want anything like supernatural in this episode. So they didn't end up doing that, which I think is interesting. But I also think it could have been more interesting if they would have leaned more into like the supernatural.
Yeah. I mean, dreams that have. I'll just say what I'm trying to say. I had a dream once where I went to my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
And there was a black chicken, and I grabbed it, and it turned into a black dog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The next day, I didn't know I was going to my grandparents' house, but I was, and there was a random black dog at there. It was like a stray dog, and so like the grabbing the chicken and it turning into a dog part wasn't there, but like go to grandparents' house, black dog, and then I had no idea that I was going to my grandparents' house. There was no reason for there to be a black dog there.
Your dream was a prediction of the future.
Probably. And so like that sort of stuff can happen. And so I don't think that.
Well, I think, because later on in episodes, they do sort of that reveal where there's like something that is supposedly happening in a character's imagination. And then they show something. It's like, oh, so maybe it wasn't in their imagination. And maybe that thing's still out there coming to get you or whatever. The viewers may know what episode I'm referring to because it's a very popular episode of The Twilight Zone.
Ooh.
It involves an airplane and Captain Kirk from Star Trek.
This one had an airplane.
It did.
It did have an airplane.
He was part of the Air Force.
He was part of the Air
because they sent the Air Force into space to go to the moon.
Yep.
Yeah, what do you... Guess there's like a movie theater. I think Yeah, I don't know. It's a hard episode because I'm like, what is there to talk about in this episode? Besides just like the concept of like loneliness and how loneliness sucks.
That's pretty much all you can
Right,
say.
that's
about
all
it.
you can say about that. So I don't know. I really sort of like try to reach in my brain to think of more things to talk
You're
about.
trying to reach into the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I think so. When I watch the Twilight Zone, something that happens is I have ideas for stories where it's like, oh, I could kind of take that idea and use it for like a story that's a little more less just an idea and more like a narrative story with characters and stuff like that. But like this episode, I don't really have any of that takeaway besides like it's sort of interesting, like the idea of going into a movie theater and sort of just playing by itself. Like that's an interesting concept, and maybe there's something there. So
I mean, it just seemed like a sort of a post-apocalyptic world, but without an actual apocalypse.
yeah,
So
yeah, and that is kind of, I guess, disappointing, because in this episode, it feels like everything's kind of a red herring, where it's like, oh, there's stuff like people were there recently, they just disappeared, maybe someone's watching him, trying to lock him in phone booths or in prison. But then it's like, at the end of the episode, it's like none of that matters because it was all in his head anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, there's the Last Man on Earth book, which is, I wish. Okay, here's my pitch for a better version of this episode. Are you ready? Are you sure?
Yes.
It's a good pitch, maybe. So, my pitch is as he's going through, instead of just, oh, he's locked in the phone booth and oh, he's locked in jail, we actually have, because he's like monologuing the entire time, and you have to keep that for like the episode to work really at all. But I think as you're monologuing, things that are in his thoughts start popping up. So then it's not a red herring. It's, oh, he was thinking about that thing and then we saw it. So instead of The Last Man on Earth, we get A Christmas Carol on those bookshelves because he's thinking about A Christmas Carol right before that. Right, stuff like that.
When was he thinking about A Christmas Carol?
Well, he quotes it when he's talking to himself in the mirror in the ice cream shop. Remember?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, where the whole "there's more of gravy about you than grave," which is a great quote, by the way. I love that quote. It's very fun. Maybe it's just like the pretentious part of me that's like, oh, A Christmas Carol, classic literature. But that monologue felt very forced in this case. I thought anyway. But if you do what I'm saying, and you have A Christmas Carol show up on those bookshelves, then there's a reason for it, so it works fair.
Which kind of, you said you didn't have any story ideas, and you kind of just said your story idea.
Yeah.
Which is, essentially he has control of the world, but he doesn't know it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's like a dream, right?
So what if he's like, no, I don't have control over anything. Does that make it to where he doesn't anymore? You could go into some weird philosophical stuff with that.
Right, you could. Yeah, I was more of just thinking of it as like it's like a dream, right? So, as he's going, the things that he's thinking about start popping up in the world, because that's sort of how dreams work, where you know, like we don't know a lot about how dreams actually work or what exactly causes them, but the thought is that it's it's like your thoughts visualized, right? So if he's visualizing his thoughts, if he's thinking about a Christmas Carol pops out. He's thinking about I don't know, whatever, and then that thing's there. He's thinking about the Air Force, so then he sees a movie about the Air Force, whatever,
Instead, if he sees a movie about the Air Force, it makes him think about the Air Force.
Right, yeah. And like, I'm trying to think of other ways you could sort of play that out, where it's like he could say something about oh, I remember this thing from when I was a kid and something, and I would ride my tricycle everywhere, and then he's like, kind of like that tricycle right there. And then
he gets on the tricycle.
And then he gets on the tricycle and turns into a child. And then a black dog. And then you walk outside and see a black dog. You're like, oh my goodness, that was in the episode.
Dude.
And then I'm like, that's just my dog. She was here when you got here.
I was gonna say something, but now I can't remember what it was. Thank you very much.
Oh,
I was really disappointed when he ran into the bicycle.
He ran into a bicycle?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
It was like right after he left the... It was right near the end. He left the movie theater and then he like tripped on the curb and landed in the grass, and then there was this really long scene where there was like a... If you're visualizing it from the audience perspective, if the camera's right here, there's a bicycle. If the camera's right here, the bicycle's like way in the front of the screen on the right side, and the guy's like walking from the back, and he's running this way, and you just watch him, this bicycle that you've been seeing this whole time, he's just running towards it, and he just runs into it and falls over.
Yeah.
And that's right before he like looks up and sees the eye.
Right,
That's the
right.
optometrist or whatever.
Yeah.
I was really disappointed when he ran into the bicycle. I don't know why. I think it's because I was wanting him to get on it so that he could get away.
I have another theory. It brought back childhood memories of you running into a bicycle and falling.
I've never done that.
And then, because your memories are blocked out.
Oh?
But it's only through this episode that you remember the trauma you had. What? No, I feel like the episode would be better if, okay, so here's do what I'm saying, have a Christmas Carol show up when he talks about that, have things show up when he's thinking about or talking about them. But then also have more heavy implications that he's being watched before the moment where he sees an eye and says, I'm being watched. And then you have that as like a way to say like it's his subconscious being like, oh yeah, I'm in this test and people are just watching me, but they aren't interacting with me. I'm here alone, and that makes me sad because loneliness sucks. But yeah, that's sort of my pitch.
I think your pitch is a good pitch.
Well, thank you. I pitched it myself. What was that? Oh, you pitched.
Yeah, after I pitched.
You pitched it, yeah. Good job. Yep. So I guess that could be where we close off this podcast. I wish there was more to say, but this episode really, there isn't that much.
It really dragged on, and I think our podcast has dragged on also at this point.
Yeah,
just like the episode. Which I think it means we've done a good job.
I think so too. It's relatable. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. or watching, if you watched, like, the people were watching the guy in this episode, and, yeah, the more episodes to come, some of them I think will be more interesting, hopefully. We'll sort of more figure out probably how to structure it and stuff like that. But as of right now, it's here, it's having fun, so hopefully you enjoyed it.
I'm gonna
Hit
say
the follow button on the
Yeah.
podcast platform.
do that. Rate us 5 stars.
Rate us 5 stars. 5.5, please.
5.5.
No, 4.5. We don't deserve 5.
That's true.
I think 5 should be like for good podcasts like Joe Rogan or something. We just get 4.5.
Yeah. I do want to say one last thing.
Okay.
Because of what you like, your last point
Mhm.
of them watching us, like the people in the show watching the people in the or the guy in the thing.
Mhm.
It's just like the humor of like us not being alone
Right.
and him being alone.
Mm.
It's like this is how it should be.
Mhm.
We got it how it should be.
Right.
Not being alone.
Because-
If you were just doing this podcast all by yourself,
Right.
that wouldn't have been too good.
Yeah, and that's like my videos on YouTube. You can search on the YouTube search bar the Eccentric Academy, and you can click on the picture of me reading a comic book, and then you can subscribe to that channel, and you can watch me being the guy from this episode where he's all alone.
All alone.
All alone.
Have you ever thought about that? Like
Mhm.
when you're doing an episode alone, thought about being like this guy?
Oh yeah, all of the time I think about like it would be a lot easier to like sort of structure these videos if like well some of them are heavily scripted, and like I think through things and it's like I'm sort of trying to draw the philosophy of whatever I'm talking about. Other ones where it's like just like a off the cuff review, those ones I'm like, this would be a lot easier if there was someone I was talking to, because otherwise, like, I just have random ideas and say them, and there's no conversation there, there's no meat. But anyway, which is kind of why like I haven't really done the Twilight Zone that much, is because I've wanted to make stuff about the Twilight Zone for a long time, one of my favorite shows, but I think this sort of setting is a much better way to do it, and oh my goodness, you drank a lot of that really
I
fast.
drank my whole poker.
You drank your whole poker, and while I'm just slowly drinking my half a bottle of live wine. Anyway, yeah, so subscribe to the channels, follow on Spotify if this ends up on Spotify.
Or on any of the other podcast platforms,
What's
just
another
Spotify.
one? Apple Podcast?
Apple Podcasts. The one I use is Castbox. I think most people don't use that one, and that's probably why I use it.
Because you're cool.
I'm weird.
You're cool. You're
I'm so cool.
You're against the grain. You're a rebel with a cause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm starting something new.
I think Amazon Music is another one.
Yeah.
YouTube Music, which it will be on or is it YouTube Music? I think so.
It'll be on YouTube in some capacity.
Right, yeah. But if you have like, I think it's YouTube Music where you can turn the phone off and just listen to something.
If you have premium.
Okay, is it YouTube Premium that allows you to do that?
Yeah.
So if you have Premium, then you can download this and listen to it even if you don't have Spotify or Amazon or And who knows what platforms this will actually end up on because we haven't figured out that part yet.
Yep.
But you will, right?
Yep.
Alright, everyone. Goodbye. Thank you for watching / listening.
Peace.
That should be our thing is we high five at the end of every episode.
Yeah.